Hello everyone and welcome back to the second day of Summerween. It is Saturday the 16th. I apologize if you can hear my fan in the background. It's very hot out today and my room is very warm. But I'm very excited. Today is just going to be a cozy day. I'm in my favorite fall sweatshirt. I'm in my leggings. It's going to be a nice day today because we're just going to stay inside and be cozy and read and enjoy Summerween. I'm also really excited because today I'm going to do a little bit of a fall candle haul. I did not go out and buy a bunch of candles for this video specifically, but I have a bunch of favorites that I try to keep in stock and that add a lot to my reading in the fall and keeping the cozy corner cozy that you guys might be interested. What are some of my favorites? We're going to do that, and the rest of the day is going to be spent trying to finish this bad boy. I read quite a bit more this morning before I'm giving this update. It's almost 11 o'clock. Oh, excuse me, almost 11:30. I am on chapter 11, appropriately, and it's going really well. I am really liking this book, and I'm thinking it's going to be on the upside of a 3. I don't know where yet, but it's so good. A little update of what's been happening. So Stevie and her friends obviously made it to camp. They got the tour. They found out where they're going to be living. Carson, who is I think it's so strange when anybody in a book has a name that's also your name. So Carson is my last name. And so it always throws me whenever I read those names that I'm like, it's not me. Anyway, Carson is a tech boy. Owns one of those very niche hipster tech companies. He's the box subscription guy. Anyway, his ulterior motive for buying this camp, and he also donated a small a children's library in honor of one of the girls that was killed back in the 70s. The only reason he's doing this is because he wants to butter up the town in order to make a podcast about the Box in the Woods murders, which, is kind of despicable. You don't like it. And so he throws this massive picnic in the evening with all these food trucks to celebrate the opening of the children's library, and stupidly he makes that announcement that, like, I've done all this for you, and now I really want to see if you guys want, or it'd be really great if you guys would support me in this murder mystery true crime podcast that I'm going to do. And also, here's Stevie. I brought her to help solve it, and poor Stevie had to go up on stage and witness the sister of the girl who the library is dedicated to kind of chew him out in front of everyone. It was not good. Very tense situation. But Stevie and her 2 friends kind of ran away from the picnic to escape the awkwardness. And Patty, who was one of the friends of the kids who were murdered in the 70s, who should have been there at the murder scene but wasn't because she got in trouble by the girl who the library was dedicated to, Sabrina. Sorry about that pause. I'm just putting pieces together in my head about who I think did it. Anyway, her name's Patty, and she really was kind of the final girl of that group to survive. She's the only one of that friend group to survive. She has a cake business, a bakery, and so she brings them all back to her bakery and lets them have cake, and she tells them her side of the story. There are big pieces in her story that are missing, not necessarily because I think she omitted anything, but because it brings up things that don't match up with what other people have been saying. Anyway, they talk with Patty, they get her side of the story, they go back to camp. Stevie and Janelle are in this little back cabin area in the art pavilion, and they go to sleep, and they wake up and discover that surprise has been written in white paint above Stevie's bed, the same as on the lid of the box in the woods when they first discovered the murdered teenagers. That really threw me because I'm like, ooh, that's creepy. It's someone currently they know she's here, and they're doing it again. But it turns out that it was old paint, so it was been there for a while, or at least had been there before Stevie came. So very interesting, another little clue. There's also a rumor going around about Sabrina's diary. That probably has some information in it. In the 70s, that timeline, the town kind of had this picnic thing to sort of gather in grief. And then in the evening of that picnic, all of the teenagers go out to the football field and are all sitting around just kind of commiserating and talking about what they think happened. Patty at the time had a boyfriend whose name is Greg, who was a massive stoner, sold drugs just like one of the other kids in the woods. And he made a weird offhanded comment about knowing who did it or how it happened, and then drove away, drunk and high, on his motorcycle. It crashed in a hairpin turn and died. So that's really convenient for the plot. Mentions that he knows how it happened or who did it and then dies. I don't think he was murdered, it was drunk driving. But I was like, oh, what a missed opportunity. He had something. Patty's kind of becoming the main focus. It's a lot of setup. Nothing super major has happened short of the new discovery of surprise written above Stevie's bed. They're gonna put cameras up in their arts pavilion. So anyway, in sort of the normal world, the first day of staff training is about to begin. Getting a lot of flashbacks from my time at staff training for camp. I think that's part of the reason why I'm liking this so much, is that even though my camp that I worked at was structured very differently because it was a church camp, not just a regular summer camp, you know, you still get that vibe of new staff, orientation. I am going to see if I can finish it today, and I will continue to update you maybe every 5-10 chapters or so until I finish it. I'm really excited for day 2. Let the spooky stuff begin. It is a little after, it's almost 1 o'clock. I've had some lunch and I have read quite a bit more in Box in the Woods. I'm on page 208, chapter 16. I'm over halfway. A sort of minor plot twist happened that I did predict. I did call it, having to do with the word surprise that was painted on Stevie and Janelle's bunk. And I don't know if I mentioned this in my previous update, but there was a box of really creepy dolls that was left on Carson's sort of private trail driveway on his property. That was sort of a diorama of what the murder scene looked like in the 70s. And for a while that was really all that Stevie could concentrate on because it freaked her out. I mean, it would, someone trying to intimidate you by those things. But she figured it out, and I did predict that that was the solution. I will say, it was a little unbelievable when she was explaining what had happened. There were elements of like, that feels like a little bit of a stretch, but it was set up nicely, I will say that. It wasn't like she explained all these details and then left you to wonder how it had happened. There was a basis for it, so it wasn't completely out of the blue. I'm just really proud of myself that I was correct in my prediction. So that doesn't, if I'm being honest, I say that I do this a lot with murder mysteries and thrillers. I second guess myself a lot of like, my gut instinct is often the correct one, but I overthink things. And so rarely do I arrive at one conclusion and stick with that one conclusion. Often I'll wander and get lost in the tangents or all the red herrings in the story. But this time, my gut instinct was correct and I stuck with it. So Anyway, that little mini mystery has been solved, but Stevie's still on the hunt for Sabrina's diary. She's going to focus on that rather than trying to solve the murder because it's a smaller thing to deal with. She met Sabrina's sister Allison, who was the girl who blew up at the picnic, who is also a librarian, so she runs the new children's library. Allison took her in her house. It's like OCD level neat, and she basically has a little bit of a shrine to her sister. All of her belongings are set out. Allison's an archivist, so she collects and keeps things. Her friends bring her things that are from Sabrina or have Sabrina in them, and she keeps them all. It's a little off-putting. I don't quite know what to think about her. Interesting, and again, I keep pausing because as I'm saying these things out loud, pieces are floating into place in my head of who I think did it. The only other person that I'm curious about is Diane. She was the other girl at the scene who was murdered. Had minimum number of stab wounds, and there's not a lot about her in all of the information that Carson compiled for Stevie, so she's a little bit of a curiosity. Oh, there's also this other murder that happened of this little boy, and Todd, who is the fourth person, who's the mayor's son and known for drinking and driving or being high and driving, was rumored to have run over this boy while he was intoxicated. It was covered up, but most of the town kind of knows it was him, and he and Diane were dating, and so there's also that in the town, that sort of unresolved tension that the mayor's son, who is the captain of the football team, killed this little boy. So there's a lot of stuff happening in this small town. Oh, David, Stevie's boyfriend, is coming soon. He's took a week off of his work to go camping to support her because he's worried about her. We love that. Campers are arriving the next day. I feel like there was something else I was going to mention, but I can't remember. Oh, got it. I love when authors or characters in books have great taste. And Stevie made, or the author made, an excellent Hercule Poirot reference. So we love a girl who has good taste in literary detectives. Hercule Poirot is my favorite. Agatha Christie's writing is exceptional, but my favorite version is the BBC David Suchet, who's a brilliant British actor, who portrays Hercule Poirot in all of their sort of TV movies. Love him to bits. He's my favorite, and she made a stellar reference to him in here, and I was so excited. Anyway, it's moving very quickly. I'm probably, I don't know how many chapters there are in total. I'm not 50 total. Oh, 30 total. Okay. Pretty much 3 more sessions of reading and I'll be done with this book, which is nuts. Anyway, I need to do some cleaning because in the middle of Summerween and in the middle of my writing deadline, I decided to clean out my closet and there is stuff everywhere. So I'm gonna see if I can finish that today, and it'll be a good way to break up reading. So that's the plan. It's going really well so far. Also, I just want to highlight, look at Maureen Johnson's author photo. Ugh, iconic. Love it. Okay, let's get back to reading. Hi gang. Welcome to this awful angle where I'm horribly backlit and you can see how frizzy I am with the humidity. So I mentioned earlier that I'm in the process of cleaning out my closet, which desperately needed to happen. I don't think I've properly cleaned it out since the pandemic. And I discovered a whole bunch of books that I had squirreled away with the intention of reading at some point. Some of them I had bought for previous readathons that I created that I never finished. Some of them I picked up at rummage sales, at library sales, and I need to shelve them because I need to read them. And thankfully, I have, hang on, let me show you. So this is my big tall bookshelf that I got from my grandma, and it holds mostly everything, except I have one glorious empty shelf that's down at the bottom that no one can see in any of my videos that I need to fill with stuff. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna do that now, and do a little time lapse of one of the most satisfying things to watch on BookTube, which is people putting stuff on shelves. Okay everyone, it is about 2:15. I have made it to chapter 21, page 262. This is moving very fast and it's very entertaining. Not many days have passed in this story, but so much has happened. Some big things. Someone else died, and their death, people think it was an accident, but Stevie, based on what she knows of this person, and because she has a decent nose for things that are said to be accidents but aren't, knows that someone probably killed this person. It was not the person who I thought was going to go, and it's kind of a quintessential person to probably figuring out some of the extra details as to why one of the teenagers was in the woods at the time. But yeah, death meant to look like an accident isn't an accident. She just had a conversation with the former director of the camp in the 70s, and she told her version of the story, Susan. I haven't been able to pick apart a whole lot of details about people's testimonies of the time. She also talked with Paul, who was the older brother of the boy who was killed by Todd, the mayor's son. Got his version of the story, and everyone she's talking to seems to think that believe that it was Todd who did it. So there's no real glaring discrepancies that I'm noticing. I think still a lot of the intrigue is why Sabrina was there in the woods, because doing something like that was so polar opposite of who she was. And you got a little bit of her testimony of wanting to cut loose that summer because there was a lot of pressure on her to be good academically. But that's where most of my question marks are lying, are with her and her missing diary still. They still haven't been able to find it. David is here at camp. And two things about David being in camp. One, this is a pet peeve of mine. When someone acts bitter because their significant other isn't there, and so when they witness someone else when their significant other, they will make them feel bad for them feeling bad. So Janelle's partner is in Vietnam for the summer. She won't see her until school starts, and she witnesses Stevie and David making out in their cabin, which, to be fair, is a shared space. But the way she got irritated was really irritating, frustrating for me. I'm like, just because, you know, it is long distance for a couple months with your partner doesn't mean you need to make people feel guilty about rejoicing the fact that Stevie hasn't seen her boyfriend in over 6 months. So, you know, anyway, that was really one mark where I was like, oh, I don't like that Janelle did that. But the other thing was that David snuck onto camp property to visit Stevie that night and got caught. And Nicole, who is the current, like, camp manager, was very harsh about, like, the rules and regulations of having strangers on campus, which, for twofold reasons, like, that's a pretty standard mindset in modern day camping, but also there had been murders at this camp, so of course you're going to be overly concerned. So that camp program leader in me is like, yeah, you are in charge of all these kids, you are guardians for them, you are acting in loco parentis, your security level should be high, no strangers on camp, you're protecting these kids. So there's parts of me that I'm like, ooh. And reading about all of like the freedom that kids and counselors had on camp back in the 70s gives me heart palpitations, because I'm like, oh, so much could have happened. How do people not get sued for injuries and damages? It's insane. So anyway, as I'm reading that, my blood pressure is spiking for all of those camp rules that weren't really rules, and then also the murder mystery that's happening. So anyway, things are ratcheting up in terms of the tension. I don't necessarily know who did it. I don't know if I have a guess. My thought is that it's someone that they knew, that the 4 teenagers knew, who followed them into the woods and killed them. I have a small suspicion, maybe 2 small suspicions, but I don't know how firm they are, so we will see what happens next. I'm hoping that this is like a really good, solid ending. I don't want it to be like, I'm worried that because, you know, there's this long-term crime of the mayor's son getting away with a hit and run on this little boy, that it's gonna be like Murder on the Orient Express, where like all the members of the family got together to kill the one murderer. Like all the town partners up to kill those kids, but I don't want it to be that. I don't know if it will be, because, you know, there's a bunch of other kids there. There are 4 teenagers, not just Todd. So anyway, I'm musing on what's gonna happen. So 10 chapters left, just over 100 pages. We're almost done. It is time for another one of my favorite things to watch online, and that is people who haul cozy things. Mostly candles. Do I have almost as equally bad a habit with candles as I do with books? Yes. Yes, I do. Do I have over 40 in my collection? Yes. Yes, I do. Because I have certain candles that I burn in the fall, certain candles that I burn in the winter, certain ones that I burn in the spring and summer. But I have noticed that my type of candles that I burn are very selective, and I'm very picky. Not necessarily just about the smell, but more the vibe. So anyway, I thought I would share some of what I keep in my fall collection to provide the atmosphere for reading and being cozy. I have a few different categories with these candles that I pick, and maybe give you some recommendations about what you should keep on hand if you'd like them, or recommendations for candle brands and candle companies. I'm gonna get really specific with this because, like I said, this is another one of my hidden passions that I genuinely love to do when the seasons change, get out all my different candles. So anyway, let's start with, if you want a very mild candle, if you don't like big scents, this might be the brand and type of candle for you. So one of my favorite local candle companies is the Oak Lane Candle Company. They are made in Iowa, where I live, and this is their cranberry and apple candle. Very mild, not very potent at all. It's a very fruity scent, a very light scent for fall. It's one of my favorites. I have not trimmed the wick in this because I haven't burned this since fall. Oh, it smells so good. I like to have this one in like kitchen areas or areas where there's a lot of dining, because it is such a nice, clean, fresh scent. One of my favorites. If you want a really great independent candle company that creates a lot of bookish merchandise, then I would suggest the Frostbeard Studio and their Book Lovers Soy Candles line. I have 3 of these. One of them is, oh, I've got it on my shelf actually. One of them is Old Books, which is aged paper, dust, and vanilla. The other one that I have is Rainy Day Reads, which I think is lilac, ginger, and fresh rain. This one is a little potent, but this is the bookstore. This is mahogany, leather, and coffee, and oh, the way this punched me in the face the first time I opened it. Oh, it's so good. I wish people could smell this. I would just have to waft it at you and you would get hit in the face. Oh, it's so nice. It's so warm. And it really does like combine being in Barnes & Noble near the Starbucks and a really handsome man's office in a college university somewhere. It's so good. If you were looking for books, if you're looking for candles to fit a certain type of book, a certain genre of book, like a mood, like fantasy mood, or a dystopian mood, or magic mood, I would 100% recommend the Firelight Fables Candle Company. I am distantly related to Casey, who is the wonderful woman who hand pours all of these candles. It is another at-home small business, and she's so good. This is part of her original, I think it's her original line, her D&D line. This is the Rustic Tavern. It's so good. As soon as you smell it, it just brings up images of like exposed open wood beams in the ceiling, and not a dirty tavern, but like a really pretty picturesque, very cottagecore-y type tavern. Ugh, it's so good. She was also one of the vendors that supplied some prizes for Book March Madness 2 years ago. Yeah, anyway, it's so good. Very atmospheric for fall. Like it's drizzling, raining outside, and you scurry into this cute little rustic tavern to get out of the rain and have a really delicious meal with some good friends. Ugh, so good. Casey, you're awesome. If you want kind of an antique-y feel to your candles, or you want some witchy, sort of Salem Witch Trials era type candles, I would 100% recommend the 1803 Candle Company, the Apothecary of Fragrance. They are exceptional. I love them so much. They come in these cute little Care Mason jars. This one I have is Hocus Pocus. The moon is round and bright like a white pumpkin in the sky. It glows through the shadows of the trees to light the way for All Hallows Eve. This is one of my favorites to burn in like the early October time. Oh, it's so good. I don't know why. I could get high off of this. Ugh. This reminds me of like something that would be burning in like your grandma's house or an old general store, but not in a bad way. It's so good. It's vanilla-y and pumpkin-y, but not sickly sweet. It's just, when I smell this, I think of like warm and cozy. That's the vibes that it gives me. Ugh, but they have so many cool like apothecary themed candles. I have another one in the kitchen that's apples and acorns. That's also really good, but this is my favorite, Hocus Pocus. It's just like a hug of Halloween and fall. It's so good. If you want something odd, alternative, you want a fall scent, but you don't want to be, you know, a stereotypical leaves girl from Bath & Body Works, I would 100% recommend But First Coffee. It's so good. Rich roasted coffee, sugared brioche, vanilla cream. Oh, this one is very potent coffee, and I think sometimes coffee candles get blended with too much other stuff, but it's a really nice coffee vanilla scent. Very strong. It's also gray on the inside, which I thought was really interesting. I've had maybe like 3 or 4 of these. This is one of my favorite bridge candles in between October and December. This is almost exclusively what I light in November. If you're a fancy girl or boy or non-gendered, but you want a good like entertaining candle, also from White Barn, that would be the Perfect Autumn. Whenever I light this, I just feel like the classiest lady alive. This is fresh cranberry, spiced pumpkin, crisp apple, and rich clove. This just, I don't know why, this screams pristine white, you know, house. They host dinner parties all the time. Very fruity, very mild pumpkin, very mild clove. It's all about the cranberry in this candle, and I love it so much. I burn this again in November, closer to Thanksgiving. Oh, it's so good. All right, and if Halloween is your favorite holiday, Bath and Body Works does come out with like a regular Halloween line, and some of them are okay. Often I will stick closer to their more traditional fall scents, but I gotta go cartoonish for one of them. And why not Perfect Pumpkin? This is so good. This is pumpkin, clove, vanilla, and brown sugar. It's so good. This is more pumpkin-y. Again, not super sickly sweet like some of their pumpkin scents can be, but it's so... Oh, this is almost bringing me to tears because of how much I love burning this candle at Halloween. It's so cartoony, full of glitter, full of cats, full of jack-o'-lanterns, a haunted house. I burn this. This is gonna be how deeply I get into this. I have certain candles, like I said, that I burn in October. This is the one that I exclusively burn the week of Halloween and while kids are trick-or-treating. So they smell this when they trick-or-treat at my house. Oh, it's so good. This is more pumpkin and clovey incense. All right, I will admit that I am kind of a basic witch when it comes to candle taste because yes, I absolutely get leaves from Bath and Body Works. One of my favorites. Crisp red apple, golden nectar, clove spice. Oh, this one makes my mouth water. When I smell this burning, I'm instantly drooling. Very appley. This is more of a September into October candle. I don't want to know how many of these I've burned over the past couple years. Also, I love the design on this that they chose for last year's. Oh, this is relatively new. We'll see if this lasts me all of September. Again, if you don't like the sickly sweet, this is very fruity, very light. So good. And if you want to know my all-time favorite fall candle from Bath and Body Works, it is Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin. Look at this design. It's so gorgeous. Warm cinnamon, clove, vanilla cream, brown sugar. It's so good. This is the one that I will exclusively burn the entirety of fall. Again, this is probably my most bought candle of all time. It's so good. So cinnamony. One of my all-time favorites and my constant staple. If I do not have this candle, I panic. Anyway, those are all of the fall candles that I keep in stock pretty regularly. Occasionally I will swap one out, but I would 100% recommend going and checking out some of those earlier candle companies because they are mostly small businesses or locally crafted, and they're some of my favorites. And if you like to mainline Bath and Body Works candles like I do, you got a variety there too of some of my favorites. And you bet that I'm gonna go and check out their new fall line and maybe add a couple new ones to my collection. Anyway, if any of these sound interesting to you, if you have particular fall candles you burn, I would love to know because like I said, this is a niche interest of mine and I curate my collection like I curate my books. So much has just happened in this book. I'm on chapter 26, page 320. Okay, so much has happened in the last 5 chapters. They've all kind of snowballed into one another. David and Stevie had kind of a big fight over a decision David has to make about his future, and it kind of pushed Stevie into a little bit of a reckless behavior spiral. So Stevie and Nate decide to take a break from camp and they go to the diner, and while they're there, Stevie puts the pieces together as to where the diary is, and so she and Nate decide to break into that place. I won't give details so that I don't have any spoilers, but they break in and someone discovers them there, or also breaks in there, and stole the bikes that they rode in on, so they have no way to get away quickly, which usually means that they knew that Stevie and Nate were there, or were hot on the trail of the diary as well, but keeping pace with them. So they escape through the woods, and earlier on in the book, they had gone to where the falls were of Camp Wonder Falls, which is the old name of the camp, which is now Camp Sunny Pines. But they found the falls earlier in the book, and there's this point called Point 23, where it's like cliff jumping a little bit. And so the person is chasing them through the woods, they're being shot at. It's really intense. And so Nate and Stevie jump, and Stevie gets really seriously injured, and in the process of that, the diary goes missing again. And so it was just a lot of like rejoicing, yes, they found the diary, and then oh no, they're back to square one. And we still don't have any idea who the person is who's shooting at them. Stevie just experienced something really odd in the hospital that she had to write down on her cast because she broke her arm. So something big is coming, and there's only 5 chapters left, so it's going to be a really explosive ending, I have a feeling. I still don't really have any idea as to who it could be. I have a few people who are floating in my mind of, if this plays out correctly, it would be a really cool ending. And of course I have the one ending that I don't want it to be, where it's like a bunch of people from town joined up to do this because of previous murders that have happened. I have one that I really want it to be, but I think it's probably too much of a out there thought. So anyway, I'm really excited, and I can't put this down, so I'm actually just gonna go plow through the last 5 chapters and let you know my final thoughts, because those past 5 chapters, it was just like careening down the side of a mountain or cliff jumping. And I just finished The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson. Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I think it was very original in the type of crime and the method and motive. I loved all of the summer camp ambiance, but the big question is, did I correctly predict what happened? I'm gonna say 50%. I was half right. The background information on how the crime was committed caught me off guard. I was not expecting the depth of the reasoning behind this crime. Did I guess the person correctly, like the modern day person correctly? Yes, I did. They were one of 2 people that I thought might have done it. And so that's why I said 50% correct. I think the explanation for who the murderer was, and like I said, the situation was very unique and original, and there were dropped hints along the way. They were kind of vague. You had to really be parsing out exactly what people were saying. And there were a few, and this is what I like about good mysteries, when the red herrings in and of themselves are mysteries that get solved along the way. I love that. It is so satisfying to me. That's why I love Hercule Poirot, because, well, Agatha Christie in general. There is the main crime that keeps twisting and twisting, but as it's twisting, other red herrings go off that are equally as twisty, and all of those mysteries get solved along the way, and it's so satisfying to me, and I love it. I think I know what I'm going to rate this book, but I am saving all of my full reviews for the end of the week. But suffice it to say, this was a thoroughly enjoyable read. It wrapped up really nicely. I think it was a fairly believable conclusion and a very historical one. I think it really gave a nod to the time and place. So like the 1970s, it gave very accurate descriptions, at least in my mind, of the lifestyle and the attitude of people who lived back then compared to how we live now. I thought that was a very accurate portrayal. Yeah, all in all, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. If you want a really good, fast murder mystery that's like perfect for the summertime, this would be what I would recommend. And honestly, this summer camp where she worked just has the weather vibe of where I live. Horribly humid in the summer, massive hailstorms, tornado warnings, you know, a lake, lots of trees, woods. Also, one thing that I noticed about the cover that, two things that I didn't notice before. So in the crime, the 3 teenagers who were in the box, found in the box, their wrists and legs were tied with red twine. And all of this red stuff going through these trees on the cover is red string, or like remnants of red string. And up here there's a little bow. Didn't pay attention to that the first time. Anyway, all in all, I really enjoyed this. Glad this was the first read of Summerween. And I think that's it for today. This will be my last update for the day. Starting a new book tomorrow. I will probably put a poll up to decide which of the other 2 books that I want to read next, The Final Girl Support Group or This House is Haunted. We will see. But this was a great way to end the second day. Good book. Oh, cozy times. So good. I hope your Summerween is going well, and I will see you all tomorrow. You guys, I'm trying to hold my camera and my flashlight in one go. It's really rough. I'm back to reading House of Leaves, and it doesn't take long for it to start getting to the weird part. Like, not even 20 pages. I'm so scared. We're just about to learn more about the SOS signal. I don't know how far I'm gonna read tonight. I'm gonna see if I can get to chapter 10 because this stuff moves really quickly in the middle. So I'm gonna see if I can get at least to chapter 10 and then I'll update you again. Hi, it's me. I'm in the middle of chapter 9 and we just had a bunch of pages explaining the history of the labyrinth. Created by King Minos to trap the Minotaur. Theseus went in and got the ball of thread from, is it Ariadne? Yeah. To go in and kill the Minotaur and escape the labyrinth. A whole bunch of academia about the labyrinth and comparing that to what exists beneath the house. And I'm going to show you an example of how this book is written that follows what I think is becoming more and more like a labyrinth. So there's a whole bunch of footnotes that are through this story, and I just got to footnote 144, which are all in these blue boxes. Now throughout this book, this is the full color edition, the word house is always in blue. I don't know an example close by, but this blue has something to do with the house. So I'm gonna follow all these blue squares and see where it leads. Okay, so as soon as I did that, I turned the page and it's the exact same footnote, just the mirror image of the previous page. That's so creepy. Does it do the same thing on the other side? Drains, bathtub, journal sinks. Oh, that's so creepy. Okay, I just flipped through 20 pages of scanning this box, and there were a bunch of descriptions of like plumbing and heating, air conditioning, and wiring and wood style and electricity and lights that this labyrinth doesn't have. Just a list of all this stuff that this tunnel doesn't have. Is just this creepy, dark, blank tunnel. And then the last thing I see here is picture that in your dreams. Creepy. Okay, everyone. I've reached page 125 of House of Leaves, and it's giving me like vertigo. There are passages in here that are all footnotes that are twisting back and forth, much like a labyrinth. And there's still 25 pages to go before I reach chapter 10. One of the explorers has disappeared, and there's so much side information that it's almost confusing, and you forget the scary part. I'm exploring this house, and I'm so tired. I'm falling asleep. So I think I'm gonna push pause for tonight, and pick this back up tomorrow. This book is equal parts confusing and haunting. Oh, I don't like it.